What's up, my comic comrades? Today we cover yet another What If Marvel comic in honor of Disney Plus and Marvel Studios' brand new What If animated series. And the one we chose to talk about today is What If the Avengers Had Never Been, from What If Volume 1, Issue 3. That's right, this issue tells us what happened if the Avengers had never formed, or more specifically, broke up. So sit back, relax, and see what happens in this alternate timeline. The comic starts off with the Hulk leaving the Avengers saying, "I don't need any of you. I'm still the Hulk. I'm the strongest thing walking the earth. And whatever I do from now on, I do alone." After this, the rest of the Avengers, which include Iron Man, Thor, Giant Man, and Wasp, have a meeting where Iron Man says, "We have to find the Hulk. As long as he's running around, there's no telling what he'll do." Thor then says, "Iron Man is right," and the Wasp replies, "But how do we find him?" And they end up finding him with the aid of young Rick Jones. They attempt to reason with the green-skinned behemoth, at which point the Hulk runs into the Submariner. The two have a battle, but ultimately it ends in a draw as they soon form an uneasy alliance, bound by their mutual hatred for humans. And with that, the Hulk and the Submariner begin a campaign against mankind by challenging the remaining Avengers to battle. But in the end, the Hulk and Submariner were driven off, each going their separate ways. But it was a victory nonetheless, so Thor, Iron Man, Giant Man, and the Wasp continued as the most elite and revered team in all of Marvel, the Avengers. It's at this point the Watcher starts narrating, talking to us, the reader, saying, "So it was in your world, but there are countless billions of worlds parallel to your own that diverge from your continuum at critical points." The Watcher goes on to say, "I have windows into these alternate planes, and I have observed a world, an alternate Earth if you will, where the fateful moment of the Hulk's abrupt departure from the Avengers caused a rift, which in turn, several days later, led to the end of the Avengers." And this begins our story. What if the Avengers had never been? We then get a panel of the remaining Avengers fighting and arguing with one another. Giant Man tells all of them, "Calm down and think a little, troops. This is strictly a volunteer organization. We can't force the Hulk to stay." Iron Man then says, "But without the Avengers to keep him in check, what will he do next? I tell you, we've got to find the Hulk." Thor then butts in saying, "A moment ago I agreed, but Giant Man's words ring true. So says Thor. None of us are bound by oath." Iron Man then tells him, "I figured it wasn't necessary, so I guess you're planning to leave too. Go ahead and quit, Longhair. I've just had it with your blasted superiority complex." And so Thor does, saying, "Stay your bitterness, Iron Man. You cannot know what it means to be a god." And after Thor leaves, so does Giant Man and the Wasp. With Giant Man saying, "The fact of the matter is that hanging around folks as powerful as you, the Hulk, and Thor has sort of given me a new perspective. Being 12 feet tall isn't all that great of a power. I'm not a big leaguer. I wouldn't be much more than company for you, Iron Man. It's been great, pal, but maybe it's time I stopped kidding myself and went back to being a plain old biophysicist." And as they leave the team, Iron Man says to himself, "I get the feeling that we're throwing away something irreplaceable, but what can I do?" With the caption saying as Hank Pym walks away, "Thus in this alternate reality, Henry Pym returned to his laboratory to reconsider his career as a superhero, while Thor became embroiled in his Asgardian conflicts. So with the Avengers disbanded and no more, Iron Man is left alone in his plush townhouse, which in our main 616 reality eventually became Avengers Mansion. So Iron Man all by himself sets out to find the Hulk, and he does it with the help of young Rick Jones. But when he comes face to face with the Jade Giant, he gets his butt handed to him. However, he's able to escape with Rick. Back at Iron Man's mansion, he tells Rick, "Don't worry, we'll find him, but first, I better repair this battered armor," just in case he still won't settle down. Elsewhere, we see the Hulk encounter the Submariner just like he did in the main reality. And after the two fight, they join each other in an alliance because of their hatred for humanity. But unlike in the main 616 universe, their partnership here lasts a little bit longer. The two then radio into Iron Man at what was once Avengers headquarters saying, "We await you, Thor, Giant Man, and the Wasp. There will be a fight to the death. Your answer? Speak quickly, Armored One." Iron Man tells them, "We'll be there, fish face, in 48 hours. Iron Man then says to himself, "Couldn't tell them the Avengers don't exist anymore." He would have interpreted that as cowardice. On the other hand, I'd be a fool to not be afraid to go in alone against the Hulk and Namor. Iron Man continues to say to himself, "If I can't call out the old Avengers, maybe I can create new Avengers." The comic then tells us in this alternate Earth, Iron Man spent the next 40 hours working non-stop on his scheme, which we find out is him building brand new armors specifically for Rick Jones, Hank Pym, and Jane. Iron Man then calls the three of them to show them the armors he made for them. He says, "You're wondering how we could ever match the Hulk and the Submariner. Check out these transistorized armors like mine. Designed and provided by my boss, Tony Stark, the best electronic weaponry whiz in the world. There's our power group. All you have to do is add the guts." They're hesitant at first, but eventually try on the armors, giving it a go. But all three of them are having a really hard time controlling the armors correctly, which aggravates Tony and causes them to yell at them, saying stuff like, No, you don't have to flap your arms to fly. Let the armor do the work for you. Think. Use your head." As the three of them start crashing around the lab, not getting the hang of it. Iron Man then yells at them once more, saying, "Damn it, I worked all day and all night on that armor. All I ask is you give it some respect. Let's take it from the top. The three of them, frustrated, are like, forget this, and essentially tell Iron Man, think of another way to bring down the Hulk and Namor. We're out of here. Alone once again, Iron Man tells himself, they've all shed their armor and deserted me, and I really can't blame them. I was so tired I haven't slept for 2 days. No wonder my head hurts. Still, I shouldn't have yelled at them, so I'm alone again. As it began, so it is once more. Iron Man thinks to himself, now what can I do to stand up against the Hulk and the Submariner? He tells himself, every time I battle, I risk straining my heart, or draining the power of the device in my chest plate that keeps it beating. I've walked a long time on the edge of death, too long to fear it anymore. At which point he overrides his voltage limiters so he can take power beyond his transmitter battery's rated tolerance. He goes on to say, all the way to the theoretical maximums. I'll also cross-channel my solar batteries to store additional energy, all except one bank, which I will keep isolated. It'll feed directly into my chest device. So my heart will have a guaranteed independent power supply that will only be redirected in dire emergencies. In short, my armor is adjusted for one all-out battle. And with Iron Man giving his armor a power upgrade, he set out to face the Hulk and the Submariner all by himself. Meanwhile, Rick Jones contacts Giant Man and the Wasp saying, Iron Man would never ask for another team's help like the Fantastic Four. He's gonna fight the Submariner and the Hulk alone. We have to go help him. After this, we get several pages of Iron Man doing just that, fighting the Hulk and Submariner all by himself. And initially, he does pretty good. He first takes out the Submariner, dodging one of his attacks with his armor's newly enhanced speed, causing Namor to fly into the side of a mountain, knocking himself out. He then takes on the Hulk and is able to trap the Hulk's feet in slime at the bottom of shallow water. At which point, Iron Man uses a high voltage electrical charge from his gauntlets to electrocute the Hulk, knocking him unconscious. But guess what? Iron Man's victory is short-lived as Submariner is able to free himself from the rubble and starts going to town on Iron Man, even taking him into the water, his domain, beating the crap out of him before throwing him on land, where Iron Man now lays limp and defeated. But just as the Submariner and the Hulk thought they won, because at this point the Hulk is also back on his feet, reinforcements come in the form of Rick Jones, the Wasp, and Giant Man wearing the armors that Iron Man made for them. Rick Jones goes after the Submariner and ends up getting some pretty good hits in thanks to some special tricks Iron Man put in his armor, while Giant Man and the Wasp go after the Hulk. All while Iron Man is lying there barely alive trying to get back up saying, I'm gaining strength, broken inside, but not as bad as I thought. I have to pull myself together. They need me. Right after this, Giant Man grows and with his armor enhancements picks up a giant boulder and crushes the Hulk with it. Elsewhere, the Submariner is badly hurt due to the Wasp hitting him with poisonous stingers. The Submariner even says, darkness, overwhelming me, cannot resist. The sea, if I could just make it into the sea, losing consciousness, must leap, try to reach my natural element, feel its cleansing, all healing embrace. And with that, he escapes into the sea and regains his strength. The Submariner then rushes back to battle saying they will pay for this in dignity. First they will die, and then their entire surface-dwelling race shall suffer for the atrocities committed against my Atlantean subjects. For I am Namor the Submariner, Prince of Atlantis, and so I have sworn. Back on land, the Hulk ends up turning the tables, getting the upper hand on Giant Man, slamming him into the ground, knocking him unconscious. Wasp then flies up to Giant Man saying, Hank, oh my god, Hank. Iron Man nearby uses the little bit of breath and strength he has left to crawl over to Giant Man and give him the last bit of charge left in his armor to shock Hank back to life. It works and Giant Man is able to get back up saying, my own giant strength is multiplied 100-fold by this armor. I'm the most powerful being on Earth. I could do it. I know I can. As he starts pulverizing the Hulk. Elsewhere, the Submariner, now rejuvenated from being in the sea, is currently beating the crap out of Rick Jones. At which point, he grabs him by the leg and throws him towards a mountain, which once he hits, is certainly gonna kill Rick Jones. The Hulk sees his friend Rick flying in the air and jumps to save and catch his friend before he hits the mountain. Once he saves him, he yells, Namor, you dirty flat-headed scum, I'll kill you for this. And with that, the Hulk and Namor finally end their truce and start fighting once again, which ultimately ends in a stalemate. With Hulk and Namor on the run, we see the new armored Avengers, Giant Man, Rick Jones, and the Wasp staring at the now deceased Tony Stark, who gave his life to save Hank Pym. That's right, it's revealed that Tony Stark dies on the last panel of this comic book, with the caption saying, to the memory of Anthony Stark, the first Iron Man, whose damaged heart finally stopped as he sacrificed the power of his chest device to save the lives of his armored Avengers. And that, my friends, is what would have happened if the Avengers had never formed. Meaning, if they didn't or they broke up, Tony Stark would eventually die. But there you have it, my comic comrades, yet another Marvel What If story. If you like these Marvel What If episodes, let us know in the comments what other ones you would like to see. First up for the week of August 11th, we have The Joker issue 6. After barely surviving in the jungles of Belize, the Joker flees to Europe. Jim Gordon pursues the madman, but the seeds of doubt begin to sprout. If the Joker didn't gas Arkham Asylum, who did? And what's the next move for Vengeance, Daughter of Bane? Here we have Daredevil issue 33. Lockdown continues. Elektra faces her greatest challenge as Daredevil yet, as a serial killer is on the loose in Manhattan and killing innocent people. But even the deadliest assassin in the Marvel Universe is at somewhat of a loss, because this killer could be in more than one place at once. And finally, we have Infinite Frontier issue 4. President Superman finds himself in the wrong world, and it isn't looking good. Bones and Chase attempt to stop superpowered heroes and villains from crossing multiversal lines. If they could shut down the president of the state, they think it'll serve as a signal to all to not mess with Earth Zero. And that's gonna bring today's episode of Rant to a close. But if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to check out this one right here. And if you like all of our content, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It always helps the channel out. But other than that, I'll see you all next time when I talk about all things comics.